I'm Hannah Kaplan, and this is the WCS Wild Audio Podcast, where you'll find reported audio stories covering the latest news and newsmakers from the Wildlife Conservation Society's Global Conservation Program, Zoos and Aquarium, and their many partners. We've got a great show today, so let's get to it.
This summer, the Wildlife Conservation Society welcomed Adam Falk as its new president and CEO. He brings to the role a deep commitment to science, a passion for education, and a belief in the power of collaboration. As WCS begins a new chapter, Adam sat down with Wild Audio's Nat Moss to share his excitement for his new position and the opportunity to lead the Wildlife Conservation Society as it confronts the urgent conservation challenges of the moment.
Adam Falk's path to conservation isn't a traditional one, but the through line is clear: a lifelong curiosity about how we come to know the world and how knowledge guides action. Before coming to WCS, he served as president of Williams College and then the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, after previously holding the position of Dean of Arts and Sciences at Johns Hopkins University.
I grew up in North Carolina. My father was a professor of philosophy. So although I became a scientist, I was always very interested in kind of all parts of the academic landscape. I went to the University of North Carolina. I studied physics, then went to Harvard for a PhD in theoretical high-energy physics. So I spent a lot of time doing calculations with a pencil and paper, thinking about quarks and other fundamental particles.
Adam sees his new role as a natural progression in his approach to leadership.
I think there are a lot of parallels between leading in higher ed and leading WCS. The university and WCS are both full of individuals who are deeply passionate about the work they do. And your job in leading them is to create conditions where people can just do that work. And in WCS, from the zoos, the people who care for the animals and think about their welfare locally, all the way out to people who are thinking globally about the survival of species in areas thousands of miles from here. The role of the leadership is to create conditions that allow them to do that work about which they are so passionate.
Science sits at the center of that passion for the work. Adam points to the power of careful observation, epitomized by WCS biologist George Schaller. Schaller's field notebooks of studies of gorillas, lions, and other species set the standard for generations of WCS scientists.
Science is at the heart of WCS. It's at the heart of my own identity as a scholar. Science, as I see it, is the way that we learn about the world in reliable ways. And that is incredibly important for its own sake. I think it is a fundamental human need to understand the world that we live in. I think applied science is very important, but basic science, science that's just driven by curiosity, is equally important. And there are many things certainly in my field of physics, where there were developments that seemed very esoteric when they first appeared, on quantum mechanics or general relativity, that are now fundamental to technological applications. But this is true in conservation science as well. It's true in zoology. And I read about the work that George Schaller did and the extraordinarily precise observations that filled these notebooks of every aspect of whatever animal he was in the field studying. I think he did all of that work because he simply wanted to understand these creatures. It was driven by, I think, a deeper sense of wanting to understand the world. And that is something we can't lose, even as we worry about the fact that we have a lot of challenges.
Local empowerment is another through line in our conversation. WCS succeeds, Adam says, when the people closest to the work lead it.
One of the most compelling things for me about the ethics that we bring to conservation is this emphasis on nationals, local people, and the foundational role that they play in conservation. Local governments, local communities, indigenous people. We have for a while now been leaning in harder and harder to empowering local communities to be in charge of the conservation work, to the point that success for us is leaving. I think that's an incredibly important model for us to promulgate through conservation as a whole. And I'm very proud that we're quite committed to doing that.
Adam takes equal pride in WCS's distinctive place in the conservation universe with its 5 urban wildlife parks in New York City and a far-reaching global field program in more than 50 countries.
WCS is absolutely unique. There is no conservation organization that works locally the way we do. There is no zoo and aquarium that works globally the way we do. And there's nobody, I think, who does either of those any better than WCS does it. So this is an extraordinarily high-quality organization. It's a privilege to have come and be a part of it.
With offices at both the Bronx and Central Park zoos, Adam has a front-row seat to the dedicated work that typifies WCS's 4 zoos and aquarium.
I think one of the most wonderful things about my job is that I come to work at the zoo every day. I find the zoo to be an incredibly inspiring place. My children love the zoo. They loved the zoo when they were small. They're now in their 20s and they still love the zoo. And it's inspiring to see the work of the people who run the zoos, the extraordinary care that the keepers take of the animals, the depth with which they understand those animals and understand how to care for them. I think the zoos have a very important role to play in conservation. If we want people to care about conservation, we cannot inculcate that by simply showing them pictures and videos of animals. People have to have the opportunity to see animals in the physical spaces those animals are in, to interact with them. And you just see this, right? People develop a different understanding of the importance of conserving animals in the wild when they see them in our zoos.
Having worked to nurture the education of young people for much of his career, Adam appreciates the opportunity he has at WCS to continue those efforts.
Too often, I think we present science to students as a kind of cod liver oil, a thing that they need to take because it's good for them. And really, science is about exploring and becoming inspired. And there is no better vector for exciting students about learning more than coming to a zoo and seeing animals and wanting to learn about them. So I love the way that our education programs build on that opportunity. It's also true that for many New York City students, this is one of the few opportunities they have to do real science. And for some of them, that can mean something more ambitious, like coming to the zoo in the summer and being an intern and being part of a program that's more formal, where they have a chance to really not only do science, but start to see themselves as scientists. It's one of the most important impacts that the zoo has on New York. And I'm excited to continue to support that work and to see that work grow in as many ways as we can.
Adam's fascination with the natural world goes back to his childhood, when an early interest in wildlife and the outdoors shaped his views of science and exploration.
I grew up, like many people in my generation, watching Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. It was on Sunday afternoons. I absolutely loved it. I've always loved the outdoors. I actually had a grandfather who was a polar explorer, although I'm not that intrepid myself. But my favorite vacation is to be in the mountains hiking, far from roads and other parts of civilization. One of the really exciting opportunities about this role is the chance to go and see our field conservation efforts all over the world. I recently paid my first visit to the field to Guatemala and to the Mayan Forest Reserve. Just a spectacular landscape, incredibly inspiring to see the work that WCS staff are doing to conserve it as a place for jaguars and scarlet macaws. And there's nothing like going into the field and seeing this work to motivate me to come home and want to support people who are doing that work.
It's the people doing the work that gives Adam the confidence that we can tackle the day's current environmental crises.
So we have all sorts of challenges that we face. Some of them feel quite dire: global warming and biodiversity loss and zoonotic diseases. You have to have hope, right? And, it's been said that the only thing that can change the world is committed people. And I come to WCS to work every day, and I see an extraordinary group of people who are deeply committed to the work of saving wild spaces on this planet. That's the thing that has to give you hope.
As a scientist, an educator, and now a conservation leader, Adam Falk brings humility, curiosity, and a deep respect for the people and places that define WCS. For WCS Wild Audio, this is Nat Moss.
Today's episode was produced and reported by Nat Moss, with help from Dan Rosen and Hannah Kaplan. The WCS Wild Audio Podcast is a production of the Wildlife Conservation Society. Stay tuned for our next episode, and don't forget to follow, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts.